this is a tradition, a national ceremony that takes place on every Armed Forces Day celebration, a way of showing honor and respect and dignity to the flag of Liberia. That was done at around 6 a.m. this morning. Now, currently, we're seeing the arrival of guests here at the BTC for the 69th anniversary of the Armed Forces of Liberia. This year's Armed Forces Day is being celebrated under the theme Securing Liberia Together, Strengthening Interagency Cooperation against drug trafficking and emerging security threats. Here today are celebrating a milestone. Prior to today's event, several activities were held across Monrovia. Most of these activities were community outreach activities. The soldiers carry out clean-up activities in several parts of Liberia, inclusive of Maryland County, and of course here in Monrovia in the Red Light area in central Monrovia. But currently, we're bringing you live coverage of the ambience of the Barclays Training Center, just so you have a glimpse of what today's Armed Forces Day is about. At the moment, the troops are already getting into their formation, spread out here on the field at the Barclays Training Center, and the marching band of the Armed Forces is also leading that process in making sure the soldiers are geared up in the morale to observe the 69th anniversary here at the Barclays Training Center. Before that, guests are already arriving. We've seen the arrival of members of the diplomatic corps. There are also special guests that have been invited from across the continent. We also have representatives from the U.S. Embassy and from the U.S. Army. We also do have soldiers from the Armed Forces or the Nigeria Army. We also do have soldiers from the Sierra Leone Army who are here at the Barclays Training Center to observe today's 69th Armed Forces Day celebration. Right behind me is the route that the convoy of His Excellency President Boakai will be using to arrive here at the BTC. And then the red carpet has already been laid. If you can look just right here, this is precisely where the President vehicle will land, and President Boakai will walk this red carpet and head towards that stand where he will be received by the Chief of Staff of the Armed Forces of Liberia. This red, white, and blue stand behind me is where His Excellency the President will first be received. He will stand here and be received by the Minister of Defense and the Chief of Staff of the Armed Forces. Once His Excellency President Boakai arrives, he will be saluted by the soldiers who will usher him to his seat to begin the actual activities of the Armed Forces of Liberia. We are still seeing the arrival of guests, but if you can look here, the podium has already been set. This ahead of us is the podium where President Boakai will be addressing the Armed Forces of Liberia, just right here. Now, the seat also for the president, right here precisely, is where the president will be addressing the soldiers. Remember, President Boakai is the commander-in-chief of the Armed Forces of Liberia. As you can see, it says, "The love of liberty brought us here." A very strong statement that unite Liberians through peace.
Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated.
The soldiers that represent the country will be celebrating their 69th anniversary here at the Barclays Training Center. We are now seeing the arrival of the Minister of Public Works. Honorable Minister Roland Giddens has just arrived, and he's headed to his seat. We're also seeing the arrival of more government officials. They will not be using the red carpet, so we're going to go a little closer so you can have a glimpse of some of the guests that are arriving. But just a moment ago, we saw the arrival of the Minister of Public Works, and of course he's headed at his seat. We're just also seeing the arrival of the head of the Liberia Drug Enforcement Agency. He is also headed to his seat. He's being ushered by 3 of his officers behind him, 4 of his officers precisely, who are accompanying him to his seat. That's the head of the Liberia.
Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. As the program is
more guests are arriving upon the arrival of the head of the Liberia Drug Enforcement Agency. He is greeting some of the soldiers this morning upon his arrival, giving them a handshake and also congratulating them for the observance of their 69th anniversary.
And Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of Liberia.
Both officials arriving here. They are being ushered in by protocol officers to head towards their seats
The Honorable
this morning
Minister
here to observe
of
this
National
unique occasion,
Defense,
Armed Forces Day.
Brigadier General Geraldine George,
Sure, we are now also seeing the ambassador of the Republic
Forces of Liberia,
arriving here.
Major
That's the
General
Cameroonian ambassador to Liberia.
Liberia.
He has just arrived. He's also heading the
to the 69th
also the Dean of
Armed Forces
the
Day
Diplomatic Corps.
Parade
So
ceremony.
he has just arrived. Here we're also
This
seeing
year's
delegates
Armed
from
is held
the Ivory Coast, La
under
Côte
the
d'Ivoire.
team
Also we're seeing
securing
international guests
Imperial
from
together.
India also
Strengthening
arriving here at
interagency cooperation
the Barclays Training
against
Center. We're
drug
also
trafficking
seeing
and
international
emerging
guests from the we're seeing the arrival of guests from the Economic Community of West African States from ECOWAS. We're seeing them arriving here at the Barclays Training Center. That's the
of Liberia
the ECOWAS
and the Master of
representative for
Ceremony
Liberia.
for this Armed Forces Day parade. Tradition has it that every year, February 11, we celebrate in honor of the gallant men and women of the armed forces.
So you've just seen
of
the
Liberia,
arrival of also
highlighting
army officials
the outstanding
from
contributions they
Nigeria.
make
They're also
to this
arriving
country
here. Remember,
and
the
acknowledging
speaker for
their
today's event
sacrificial work
is
for the
also
nation
from the
and
Nigerian
its
armed
people.
forces. In fact, precisely, he's
The
Lieutenant
record
General
of
White,
the people's
Army
Liberia
staff
speaks
of the Nigerian
for
Army.
itself.
He will be delivering the
It
keynote
is
address here.
a rich heritage distinguished by those
is
who
arriving here
carry
at
its
the
pulse
Barclays Training
throughout
Center.
history.
So just for following arrival of
As a
international
force
guests
for
here
good,
at this event,
the armed forces of Liberia refuse to defend the Liberian way of life and its constitutional system.
International guests from the diplomatic
Distinguished
community
ladies
all
and
day
gentlemen,
here at the BTC.
today's Armed
It's just
Forces Day
7:25
parade
PM here from the
is being
Barclays Training
executed
Center, and we're seeing
by the armed forces, the Liberian National Police,
international guests to
the
Liberia
Liberian Immigration Service,
at the Barclays Training Center,
the Liberian Revenue
69th
Authority,
anniversary of
Customs
the Armed Forces of
Department,
Liberia. So wherever you're watching, and
the
following
Liberian
this
National
LFTV
Fire
Liberia,
Service,
and we're bringing you
the
live coverage
Liberian
of the
Drugs
activities marking
Enforcement
the 69th
Agency,
anniversary of the Armed Forces
the
of Liberia.
Monrovia City Police, the Bureau of Corrections, the Liberian Seaport Police, the Forestry Development Authority,
the
Park
announcement being made there
Rangers,
by the Armed Forces of Liberia.
the Pittsville City
the ones
Police,
coordinating today's event.
the Environmental
All of the
Protection
activities
Agency,
at this event this morning.
and
Currently, we're seeing the arrival
the
of
Liberian
guests,
Scouts
this morning here
Association.
at the BTC. We are yet to see the arrival of the Chief of
The
Staff of
music
the Armed Forces of Liberia.
for today's
We are also yet to
Armed
see
Forces
the
Day
arrival of
parade
the Minister of
is
Defense.
being provided
We are seeing,
by the Armed
arrival of
Forces of
representatives from
Liberia
the
Band
British government also
under
who
the
are
command
arriving here at the BTC.
of the Second Lieutenant
to form part of
Philip K.
this,
Capper
particular,
and
event.
directed
We've also seen the arrival of the Dole
by
and members
Sergeant
of the
Major
diplomatic corps. We saw the
Matthew
ambassador
Killen.
Cameroon to Liberia.
The Drum
Also,
Major
we've seen
XI,
the arrival of the
Private
members of the
Esther
cabinet
K.
also here.
Boyo,
We saw the arrival
and
of the Minister of Public
Private
Works. The Minister
Pamelia
of Public
T.
Works did arrive a
Bokwa.
few moments ago.
The commander of
several
troops
officials of government who
will now form up his
arrived
troops
here. We've
for
also
today's
seen, Honorable
Armed Forces Day
Bernie
parade.
Samkai, who is just stepping on the green fields of the Barclays Training Center to form part also of the 69th anniversary.
The commander of troops for today's
Samokai is also
is
a
Lieutenant
former
Colonel
Chief of Staff of the Armed
Stephen
Forces of
Timothy
Liberia.
Poe,
We just witnessed how
Commander,
the soldiers stood up
First
to salute and
Infantry
welcome him,
Battalion,
because he's also
23rd
a former Chief of Staff of
Brigade.
the Armed Forces of Liberia. He did
Lieutenant
serve
Poe
as Chief of Staff of the Armed Forces of Liberia
has
during the era
completed all
of former
military
President
courses
Ellen Johnson Sirleaf.
that's commensurate
So we just saw his arrival there here at the
holds
BTC. We're
Master
seeing
of Science
officers
degree
of
in
the
Defense
of the
National
Executive
Politics
Protection Service.
from the Ghana Institute
making
of Management
sure they're putting everything in
and
place.
Public Administration.
Now we are expecting the arrival of the Chief of Staff any moment from now. If you look in the wild field here at the Barclays Training Center, the soldiers are already in formation. We are seeing the live band of the Armed Forces of Liberia. We are seeing several units already lined up and positioned here at the Barclays Training Center and conducting the ceremony as the event continues. The event has already started. As you're seeing the soldiers walking across the streets, they are forming part of the activities already, marking this 69th anniversary. We're seeing the soldiers from the National Fire Service. We're seeing soldiers from the Immigration Service.
Commander of Troops Staff
from the various city corporations, police, city police officers
are now marching
also on our far right
to form part of the parade.
Staff force marching towards the various units to form part of the parade. If you're listening also to the PA system, the soldiers are also announcing the various activities as they continue, as they go on. So the troops are already in formation here at the Barclays Training Center. They are waiting their arrival. The Chief of Staff of the Armed Forces of Liberia, the Minister of Defense, His Excellency the President, the Vice President,
the
Chief Justice,
for today's
members
parade
of the cabinet making their way here at the BTC.
Aloysius Square.
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Commander of Troops has ordered the adjutant to form up the parade and sound the adjutant's call.
So folks, more guests still arriving here. We're seeing diplomatic guests here at the barracks.
The adjutant's call
members of the
signifies that the adjutant
we've seen
is about to form
international
the
guests
parade.
from the European Commission, from Ireland. We're seeing guests also from the British Commission or the British Embassy accredited near Monrovia also arrived here at the BTC already. We still have some vacant seats already at the main podium where the officials will be seated. The President's seat is still with the Chief of Staff of the Armed Forces, still with the Minister of Defense, the Justice Minister, the Vice President, of course, His Excellency the President, the Commander-in-Chief himself of the Armed Forces of Liberia. So the ceremony continues. The soldiers are in formation, the commands are being passed around, and the event itself is already on. So if you're watching us on LNTV from your home...
Ladies and gentlemen, the adjutant is forming up the parade by ensuring that all are properly aligned.
Now the band of the Armed Forces.
The adjutant has sounded the adjutant's call.
The heads of the units run into their various positions.
And the parade is about to move forward
and
be properly formed.
The parade has already kick-started. And what we are with now is the arrival of the Chief of Staff, the President, the Vice President, and other officials of government. Now the soldiers themselves are marching.
The adjutant is now
left, right,
returning
left,
to
right,
his post.
Left, right, left, right. And we are also seeing
to resume
various units
his
heading
duty
towards their various positions. I'm seeing ahead of me arriving the
at this time
to His Excellency the President, Madame
is marching forward
dressed up in her full
to the line of battle
here. That Madame Magdala Cooper, she's the political advisor to His Excellency the President. She's arriving here also, nicely attired in her green suit, with a smile on her face this morning. Being welcomed by the protocol. Okay, it's okay. So these soldiers, the various units of the army, marching here in the field. The blue uniform, white gloves, with their guns to their chest.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I recognize the presence of Honorable Brandon Samukai, former Ministry of National Defense. To be a soldier
The live
is to
band of the,
represent
of the armed forces
the
of
best
Liberia
of our nation.
being played.
It is
Arms down, hands stretched, faces forward, and taking commands.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Also
to be a
seeing the
soldier
arrival of Lord
represent
here at
the
the
best
Barclay Training Center.
of our nation. It is
G-Wagon is one of the
in the
officials of
hardship
government,
and sacrifice
one of the
of an elite warrior class
lawmakers arriving here.
to maneuver toward the sound of guns and to ably show them heritage prepared by those
All dressed up in
who have gone
green
before
outfit
us.
also. And if you're listening to the PA system, all of the necessary details are being provided on the various drills that are taking place. That is following us or watching
The
your
adjutant
television sets from your home.
is ensuring that the troops are properly aligned to march
The
on the
alignment of
colors.
the troops is what's happening. And once the troops are aligned, they will carry out several drills and parades, calling for commands as they await the arrival of the commander-in-chief himself, the president. And it's being passed across in honor of the 10th anniversary of the Armed Forces of Liberia, being held here under the tax of security threats, placing special emphasis on recognizing the role of the armed forces of Liberia in defending the country's territorial integrity and in border national security, including cooperation with other security institutions. Today's official celebration includes parades and ceremonial events. Of course,
Ladies and gentlemen, the adjutant has ordered the marching of the colors.
BTC.
Please stand
Veterans and
for
honorary
the marching of the colors.
also take place here. This year's observance has been declared with special attention and honor to some of the airfield veterans and personnel of the Liberia Coast Guard also, who have played a significant role in defending the flag and protecting the country.
Members of the color party include Sergeant Abu Sharif. He carries a rifle. Staff Sergeant Pesa Mayonga. He carries the Liberian flag. Staff Sergeant Ato Jala. He carries the Armed Forces of Liberia flag. Sergeant Mercy Tia. She carries the Liberian National Police flag. Officer Ophelia Nimne carries the Liberian Immigration Service flag. And Staff Sergeant Augustine Flomo carries a rifle. The two rifles at both extremes are in protection of the colors. Color party will halt in front of the adjutant, and the adjutant will present the colors to the commander of troops. Ladies and gentlemen, for more than a century, the Lone Star represents the banner under which Liberians lived, fought, and died. The flag is more than a symbol. The flag is the embodiment of our government, people, ideals, and values. To uphold the flag, members of the Armed Forces of Liberia cling to the Army core values. Ladies and gentlemen, the commander of troops has instructed that the colors be posted. Please remain standing until the colors are posted.
Four flags, several different colors.
Once again,
Several significance and meanings attached
for more than a
to the
century,
flag of Liberia.
the Lone Star represents the banner under which Liberians lived, fought, and died. The flag is more than a symbol. It is the embodiment. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. The colors I posted.
Now the colors have been posted. The soldiers can now retire. And as the colors were being posted, everyone had to stand still, salute the flags, and now that the colors have already been posted, the parades will continue.
The adjutant ordered the band to sound off.
The marching band has been ordered to sign off. Marching across the fields here at the Barclays Training Center, nicely dressed in the red and black outfit with the top and you see the gold of the band, the trumpets matching their uniforms and stepping towards victory, of course. Right, left, right, they all marching here at the Barclays Training Center in observance of the 69th anniversary of the Armed Forces of Liberia. Where are you watching from, and what are your observations so far? It's actually beautiful out here at the BTC.
Sound off.
Watch how she throws the staff in the air.
A ceremonial
spins
military
it.
tradition
Oh, it unfortunately
that has
falls.
been handed down for
She picks
decades.
it up courageously. She
On the
continues with
command
what she's
sound
been
off.
doing. And that's part of
Customary
life.
for the
As she
AFL
marches
band to
With
march
the band
across the front
across
of the
field.
troops, then countermarch back in the front of the troops and halt in its original position. This tradition is said
for
to
a
have
second time. She
originated
throws it to the floor.
in the Crusades, when troops offering themselves
Marching
for
before the
holy
troops.
sacrifice
The marching
were
band
drawn
of the Armed
up
Forces
into
of
a long
Liberia.
formation, and the band countermarched before those
Exceptionally
chosen
applied.
to serve. This drill is intended to raise the morale and build the confidence of soldiers who are about to be deployed in battle or operation. Ladies and gentlemen, if you are observing the band, members of the band are now about to conduct what we call counter march.
So about to conduct what he describes as counter march. They marched across the field and went to the end. They returning, marching before the Vera troops lined up. Hands to the back, faces forward, chest up, well aligned, focus driven, of course, with attention and respect to the colors and the flag of the Republic of Liberia. protecting the country from both foreign and domestic threats, and defending the nation. Were organized, coherently marching across the field in red attire. The trumpets
Ladies and
across
gentlemen,
the Barclays Training Center. 69 Armed Forces Day
directing
celebration.
the Armed Forces of Liberia Band in this demonstration is Prophet Pemilio Bokwa.
A day uniquely designated to honor the soldiers, men of Liberia. This 9th anniversary, the marching band is marching across the field of the Barclays Training Center, a historical barracks that have hosted for decades, for ages, with lots of history attached. Here along the beach, we're seeing the arrival of
Ladies and
gentlemen,
chosen
Donna,
for battle,
General
operation,
A. Donna,
Armed
is the
Forces
Deputy
of
Chief of
Liberia
Staff of the
Band
Armed Forces of Liberia.
is now marching back
Walk
to
to his
resume
seat.
its regional position.
And the marching band heads towards its original position now. After marching across the fields and counter-marching, uniquely headed right back where they were positioned. The troops are still in formation, hands to the back, faces forward. The police units also uniquely attired, brand new uniforms it appears. Deputy Chief of Staff of the Armed Forces.
Ladies and gentlemen, this demonstration by the Armed Forces of Liberia Band also indicates that the parade is formed.
And so, folks, it's already 7:49 a.m. 7:49 a.m. 1 hour 49 minutes since the flag of the Republic was hosted by the soldiers, starting activities marking the 69th anniversary celebration here at the BTC. And as the program sheet depicts, before it's 9:30, the President Baraka is expected to be here, and by then Lieutenant General Y.D. Shebu, the Chief of Army Staff of the Nigerian Army, will be delivering the keynote address here for the observance of the 69th anniversary.
Ladies and gentlemen, the adjutant will now inform the commander of troops that the parade is formed. The adjutant has informed the commander of troops that the parade is formed. The commander of troops has ordered the adjutant to receive the report. Ladies and gentlemen, in the military, the command received the report is synonymous to acquiring the status of your troops. Accountability in the military is one of the fundamental necessities for everything we do. Accountability is a necessary action that takes place before and after every military operation, because every commander must know the number of troops he has to commit in battle or operations. The adjutant has now boxed the staff and turned the parade over to the commander of troops. This signifies that the adjutant authority in the parade has ceased, and all orders will now come from the commander of troops. Ladies and gentlemen, the commander of troops has taken charge of the parade, and this concludes the first phase of the parade. The second and final phase will commence immediately His Excellency Mr. President arrives. Thank you for your apt attention. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm pleased to announce the arrival of the Chief of Staff, Armed Forces of Liberia, Major General Davison Faya Fole.
Saw the soldiers performing several drills here. We saw the marching band of the Armed Forces of Liberia marching across the fields here at the BTC. Behind me are soldiers from the U.S. Army who will also accompany the ambassador who has just arrived a moment ago to be here at the BTC, also forming part of this event.
The Chief of Staff is accompanied by the Forces Sergeant Major of the Armed Forces of Liberia, Forces Sergeant Major William Dapolo.
And he will be receiving the Vice President. So we're seeing more of the soldiers from the U.S. Army, the U.S. officials arriving here, still here at the BTC. And this is obviously a show of U.S. commitment to build diplomatic ties with the United States of America, especially showing military support to Liberia. Is something that the U.S. has done for ages in history over the years. And so several of them, U.S. Marine Corps, if you may, or soldiers from the U.S. Army, all arriving here. The Chief of Staff of the Army has already arrived at the barracks.
Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to recognize the presence of Major General Paul Rogers and delegation. Major General Paul Rogers is the Adjutant General of the United States Michigan Guard.
Precisely 4 minutes to 8 a.m. this morning.
The United States
the BTC.
Michigan National Guard is a key partner to the Armed Forces of Liberia. There is no way you can talk about the discipline and professionalism of the armed forces of Liberia without mentioning the contributions of the United States Michigan National Guard.
Stressing U.S. and Liberia military ties and support. We've already seen the arrival of more dignitaries, yet the Chief Justice is yet to make his way here. The Vice President also is suspected. We have also seen what looks like the convoy of the Vice President approaching here at the barracks, or probably that of the Chief Justice also. Just before that, I'm going to invite my colleague Vashta Talu, who will be joining me here on this broadcast this morning at the BTC. Vashta and I will be bringing you this live coverage this morning. Vashta, you're welcome, and today marks the 69th anniversary of the Armed Forces of Liberia. We've seen the arrival of guests already.
Thank you so much, Anthony. It's good to be here indeed to bring you a live coverage of the happenings here at the unfold at the Barracks Center here in Central Monrovia. So thank you ever so much.
Vashta will coordinate with me as we bring you this live coverage as the officials arrive here at the BTC. We are expecting and we are awaiting the arrival of the Chief Justice. So folks, we are seeing the arrival of the House Speaker, Richard Namwe-Kun, Honorable Richard Namwe-Kun, or Richard Kun, of course, the House Speaker, Speaker of the Legislature, Speaker of the House of Representatives precisely. He's been accompanied by officers of the VIP security.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm pleased
headed towards his
to announce the arrival
so any moment from now, Vashta will also
Honorable Richard Namwe-Kun, Speaker of the House of Representatives.
Speaking about guests arriving, we just saw the arrival of the House Speaker.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm pleased to announce the arrival of the Director of the National Security Agency, Honorable Prince Charles Johnson III. I'm also pleased to announce the arrival of the military advisor to the President, Major General Daniel D. Ziakan, retired. It is important to note that the NSA Director is a former Chief of Staff of the Armed Forces of Liberia.
stating that the U.S. government has been supporting the reformation and the restoration of the entire army force.
I'm seeing the arrival of the Senate Pro Temper.
Yeah.
She's been accompanied by her colleague there, that Honorable Prince Mori of Bon County.
Yes.
They're both being escorted to their seats by protocol officers. They also do have behind them their own protocol officers from the Liberian Senate, their own security from the Liberian Senate, of course. I'm also seeing the arrival of the Minister of Education.
Beautiful indeed.
Sure. Yes, Vasta, you care to introduce them?
Yeah, so she's the minister. She's the Minister of Education, and I can say I love her English so well. And she's
Jaso Jala.
Yeah, Jaso Mali Jala, according to Juerta Kula. Yeah, Jaso Mali Jala. And she has another person accompanying her.
The arrival
that will
of
be
the
a
Senate
of the education.
Honorable Yombli
European Union
Kanga
representative of
Nola
Lawrence.
Depress,
Yeah,
okay?
Madam
Nola Depress.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's all right there.
So yes, more defense also arriving in Vasta. We're getting closer to the moment where we expect to see the Chief Justice any moment from now, and then possibly the Vice President, eventually His Excellency the Commander-in-Chief of the Army himself. We've seen the ambassadors also from India arriving there. Several ambassadors from the diplomatic corps have arrived. I saw the Cameroon ambassador also.
The doyen.
Yeah, he's the doyen of the diplomatic corps. He arrived also. And after today's crucial in the history of the armed forces. Part of this activity. Before your arrival, I was trying to show some of the activities the Army have done over the time as it relates to, prior to this we also see military engagements joined by Nigerian partners or counterparts. I also discovered today that the Army, apart from having several battalions in the military, let me say, sorry, forgive me for that, rather the engineering battalion, the medical battalion, the various groupings in the Army, but we wouldn't believe that the Army is involved into agriculture, and they have
okay.
right behind us here are several bags of rice produced from the armed forces of Liberia agriculture.
This is an announcement going out to the Executive Mansion Protocol.
Think of it, letter, the first letter in the president's
Lead a member of the Executive Mansion Protocol.
So just yesterday, the Internal Affairs Minister was in Bon County visiting West President. So speaking of agriculture, you can safely say the soldiers are ready not only to guide or protect the country, but to also feed them.
Feed us.
Yeah.
Feed themselves and also
feed us, definitely.
Yeah.
I think it's crucial because logistic-wise, feeding also is one crucial part of the Army. You have to keep the men and women in the Army fed consistently. So having to feed their own weak way and also contribute to their own feeding, it's actually, I can't find the right word to describe it.
When we look at
our five, our five of us. Yes, you want to announce the arrival of the Chinese ambassador?
Yeah, ambassador to Liberia, Yen Chen-Wu.
Ambassador Yen Chen-Wu.
Yeah, Yen Chen-Wu.
Yen Chen-Wu,
yeah. So he's been accompanied.
You've been to China before, so
yeah.
I can probably trust the Chinese instead. Yes,
yeah.
That's Ambassador Yen Chen-Wu arriving there. He has just
and most of the time you see him coming with a low profile, a low key, with just maybe a single person by his side.
And it's very interesting. Sometimes you notice the very single person behind him is the security, is the protocol officer, is the cameraman. Like one guy does everything. That's it. Minimalistic, providing that is in the correct way.
Please to announce the presence of the officer in charge of the Liberia Drugs Enforcement Agency.
And let's talk about the drug enforcement.
Honorable Fitzgerald Biago.
I can say the few months. It will even amaze you to know that the so-called drug addicts will be complaining that okay, we can see the drugs on the market now. The drugs is hard to be seen on the market. Yeah, well, jokingly they will say it's hard to see on the market. It tells you that the force or as the drug now to control the influx of market. You see our
officer in charge of Liberia Drugs Enforcement Agency.
The drug is not there. It's not.
Honorable Fitzgerald Biago, you are highly welcome.
More to be done. Yes.
So are you saying the abusers are complaining because of the unavailability.
Yes,
Quite interesting to hear, by the way. Be out there in the first place.
No.
And yes, you come from a good point where you are appreciating or commending or observing.
It will bless you. It will surprise you. I went to Guinea with the president. A Liberian who is residing in Guinea was praising this government, especially the EIC or the OIC, the officer in charge of the drug enforcement agency, for the tremendous work, because he said his brother was fell prey to drugs, but because of the work,
ladies and gentlemen, I'm pleased to recognize the presence of
he felt proud of
His Excellency.
Okay, I think we have
Ambassador of the Republic of Sierra Leone.
The Minister of State.
Sure.
The Minister of State has just arrived along with his.
Honorable Stifwa.
Yeah.
I'm also pleased to recognize the arrival of the Minister of State,
it's everybody's
Republic
business.
of Liberia.
It's everybody's business.
Yeah. Amongst those dignitaries that are here, Honorable Bernice Samukai also arrived earlier. Do not forget, he used to be former Chief of Staff of the Army.
Yeah.
And I saw the salutes from the soldiers.
Defense Minister.
Former Defense Minister, in fact, also.
Okay.
And also former Defense Minister. And the soldiers saluting him, giving him his honor. Once a soldier, it's always a soldier.
It's always a soldier.
Yeah.
And even because just quite recently he was appointed as I think the national coordinator or something about a special presidential
Ladies and gentlemen,
to handle
to be a soldier
machines, is
to represent the best
after so many
of our nation. It is
after fighting several
to embody
battles,
selfless service, to strive in the hardship and sacrifice of an elite warrior class, to maneuver towards the sound of guns, and to ably shoulder
we're hoping the
heritage
is also on this
created
broadcast,
by those
so you get to
who have gone
understand
before us.
as the happenings
and I do trust Anthony to do that, because he's good at giving you a descriptive analysis of the entire event.
Emmanuel Kiphart will do better than that. The veteran.
You also learned from Kiphart.
Definitely. Just the other day I was in Lofa, and someone was asking, where is Emmanuel Kiphart? Events like these, I tend to remember him, but yes, a lot has been learned over the years from him. And yes, we'll put that in here as the Armed Forces, or the 69th anniversary of the Army. It's been celebrated here at the historic Barclays Training Center. This place carries so much weight of national history.
Ladies and gentlemen, the commander of troops for today's Armed Forces Day Parade is Lieutenant Colonel Stephen Timothy Poole, 1st Infantry Battalion Commander. Other members of his staff include the Adjutant, Captain Eloshus T. Quay, Captain Dorido George, Lieutenant Junior Grade Fred Moe, 2nd Lieutenant David P. Bomili, 2nd Lieutenant Nanu S. Welle. The Sergeant Major of the parade is Command Sergeant Major Amos Colley. The paramilitary staff is commanded by Chief Inspector of Police, Princess D. Bavo. Other members of the staff include Chief Inspector Thomas Kessley, Chief Examiner Henry K. Vanning, Major M. Hoff, Special Agent Jenen D. Blamo, and Captain Orita M. Peewee.
to say, okay, we gave them the 50 million to...
The paramilitary color party include Patrolman Paul Baker, Officer Prince C. Bailey, Agent Nathaniel K. Sumo, and the First Sergeant Ace Officer Julius O. Matadi. For this parade, the Liberian National Police is commanded by Superintendent Danieline S. Party. The flag bearer is Patrolman Rebecca Kofa, and the First Sergeant is Patrolman Liliana T. Weir. The Liberian Immigration Service is commanded by Chief Inspector Patrick W. Doe. The flag bearer is Inspector Abigail Double, and the First Sergeant is Inspector Kelvin L. Tovey. The Liberian Revenue Authority Customs Department is commanded by Officer Sam S. Cooper. The flag bearer is Officer Aaron J. Johnson, and the First Sergeant is Officer Charles J. Zuba. The Liberian National Fire Service is commanded by Major Emmanuel Parker. The flag bearer is Captain Jerry Diege, and the First Sergeant is Captain Mimi J. Wisse. The Liberian Drugs Enforcement Agency is commanded by Agent George S. Tier. The flag bearer is Agent Diamond Lane Harris, and the First Sergeant is Agent Vanny K. Thomas.
How the display of the armor, our armory will be made, and where the soldiers get to show their might, just symbolic display. Yeah, very good. Those giant sand bombs with trucks, the various vehicles. The parade drills also are very.
The GSA maintenance team, please be informed that the speaker at the right extreme rather, is not on. We just got information that the speaker at the right extreme is not on. Thank you.
So, well, the age limit is 18 to 35. Oh, am I green? That's interesting. That's very interesting. Where are you watching us from, and how are you following these activities? This is the 69th anniversary of the Army. Behind us, we still have officials arriving. We're seeing the Minister of Defense herself there, Basta, headed towards us.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm pleased to recognize the presence of the Honorable Minister of Information. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm pleased to announce the arrival of the Honorable Minister of National Defense, Brigadier General Geraldine George, retired.
I'm also seeing the arrival of the Director General of the LDS, Director General Eugene Lamin Fangong. He's arriving also. So she's being accompanied by the Chief of Staff of the Army. So that's the Director General of the Armed Forces of Liberia, Director General Eugene Lamin Fangong, headed towards the seat, waving to the cameras. You know, when you see your own camera, you know where it's situated.
So that's the Director General of the Liberia Broadcasting System, and that's the Armed Forces of Liberia.
Did I say Armed Forces of
Yes,
Liberia?
you said it.
We were talking about Armed Forces all in my mouth this morning. Quite interesting.
Yeah.
The Director General of the Liberia Broadcasting System, Eugene Lamin Fangong, arriving there. He's been directed to his seat by one of the soldiers from the Armed Forces of Liberia. Speaking of the Director General of the LBS is here in tight, fully capacitated to bring you the activities. In the outside broadcast van is here, the television crew is here, online.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm pleased to announce the arrival of the Honorable Minister of Justice, Republic of
Minister
Liberia.
of Justice is already here from within the stands.
Okay.
Yeah.
Councillor Oswald.
Yeah, Councillor Oswald Toy is also here. And the DG has been seated already. Where officials of government are seated. And that's of course, I see right behind him the LEC boss, I guess.
Yeah, it should be Mohammed.
Yeah, it should be Mr. Muhammad Sharif of the LEC. All officials in the stand. So now we have the Minister of Justice. We also could see the arrival of the Chief Justice, I guess.
Yeah.
And then the Vice President, eventually His Excellency the President
Even
himself.
former presidents would not see the arrival because the fact that former President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf will be here. We've not seen her.
So yes, it's known. Former President Sirleaf will be here.
Yeah.
We're still getting sirens all over the place, so you expect that.
Yeah.
From across the fence of the barracks, you can hear it from within here. And this place is uniquely designed, Vashta, on the flag of Liberia
Monrovia
at
City
every portion.
Police is commanded by Lieutenant Diana. The flag bearer is Sergeant Patience Toma, and the first sergeant is Sergeant Gladys M. Wisse. The Bureau of Corrections is commanded by Sergeant Momo J. Ray. The flag bearer is Inspector Minnie W.
So the
The
various
first
units
sergeant is
and
Inspector
commands still being
Pasco
announced.
K. Mamu.
We are still seeing the arrival of guests from behind
The
us. Also,
Imperial
Vashta.
Seaport Police
Zero units, Seaport Police, City Police,
is commanded
Immigration
by
Service, Coast Guard,
Patrolman
and you name them.
Eastman Crowd II. The flag bearer is Patrolman William.
And I think we are seeing the arrival of another guest until he or she can come down.
Obviously, of course. More arrivals here, Vashta.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm pleased
This could be Vashta,
announce the
Chief of Army Staff of the Republic of Nigeria.
arrival.
He is the key. He will be delivering the keynote address today. Arriving, and he's been invited by the Chief of Staff of the Army. He will be received by the Chief of Staff of the Army.
The arrival
He is Lieutenant General Waidi Shaibu,
Lieutenant
Chief of Army Staff
General
of Nigeria.
Waidi Shaibu
And we're seeing officers
Chief
accompanying his
of
vehicle.
Army Staff,
And he's going to
Nigeria
walk the red carpet,
Army.
and along with the Minister of Defense, who will welcome him and accompany him to a seat. Vashta. He will be delivering the keynote address.
So the minister, I'm seeing the Minister of Defense. I think she's
and-
coming to welcome him and take him to his seat.
He salutes the Minister of Defense. They're having a brief conversation before he
Ladies and
heads to his
gentlemen, Lieutenant General Shaibu was once
seat.
seconded
Speaking of former
to the
President
armed
Sirleaf, there goes
forces
her
of
vehicle.
Liberia.
I told you.
We're seeing her vehicle
During
arriving there.
The
Former
service to
President
the
Ellen
armed
Johnson
forces of
Sirleaf.
Liberia.
She never misses a crucial national event.
No,
Have you
no.
noticed?
He served with due diligence.
Yes, never. It's not
Making
just about the Armed
significant
Forces Day celebration, but every
contributions.
other activity when it comes to national
Today,
unity, national
the history of the
security, she's
AFL
always there.
Will be
The
incomplete.
past administration to the
If
present administration, she has always been there.
Lieutenant General
So let me give it up to her,
Shaibu is
kudos
not
to her.
mentioned.
Yeah, that's a show of unity and
Support, yeah.
support.
So she's all dressed up in a very, very light green Vashta.
And yet she snaps.
Yeah.
And she's so
She
good,
walks
so
calmly.
strong.
Imagine her trying to step like a soldier. She's quite interesting, you know.
Yeah, and
She's throwing her legs.
Yeah.
She's being
Outstanding
applauded.
ovation.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm pleased
She's
announce
interesting. She's like
her
she's throwing her legs
excellency,
left, right, like she's parading.
Madam Ellen
Yeah, that's quite
Johnson
interesting.
Sirleaf, former President, Republic of Liberia.
And the applause. Everyone stands up.
That's
This is what you
innovation
get
right
when
here.
you have served your country well,
Well.
and you remain supportive of your country
That's the key.
after your
That's
era.
the key word.
She's being
Supportive.
accompanied by the Chief of Staff of the Army and the Minister of Defense also,
Yeah.
protocol officers. Standing ovation. Salutes from the soldiers, of course. Don't forget, former Commander-in-Chief of the Army. And provided if she would
Please
have
be
made a
seated,
statement,
ladies and gentlemen.
I'm just imagining what it will be. She is so full of words, very charismatic.
And even though she's Asian, but her tune,
She doesn't sound like her age, right?
no, she does not. She doesn't. And I pray that when I get much older like her, I will sound much younger, like the way she sounds.
Yeah, sometimes you want to distinguish the President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf from the former President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, but you never know.
No.
She still has the zest, the strength in her voice to speak on crucial issues. Just the other day, she was speaking about the proliferation of churches in neighborhoods with
Nightclubs.
loudspeakers and unregulated, construction of nightclubs in almost every part of the city.
That's concerning. That's really concerning. Even in your communities, you have people like, okay, like without even asking your friends is in the next apartment sleeping, and because you have that big speaker in the morning, no. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's not called for. Even though it is your right, but you're also intruding into another person's,
Excuse me.
infringing into another person's right. That is not fair. So it was good that she, called the attention of the necessary authorities so that they can address the issue if the need arises.
We've had a significant amount of the special guests that are expected to be at this event. We have the Chief of Army Staff from Nigeria to deliver the keynote address just arrived. Former President Sirleaf just arrived. Defense Minister is here. Chief of Staff of the Army is here. Minister of Education, House Speaker, Chief Justice, the Minister of Justice precisely,
The Minister of Justice,
all here. The Chief Justice here. So we can say significantly we've left with the Chief Justice, the Vice President,
and the President.
Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of Liberia. 69th
The
anniversary of the
Liberian
Army.
Seaport Police is commanded by Patrolman Eastman Kura II. The flag bearer is Patrolman William T. Kekula. The first sergeant is Patrolman Grace B. Jar. the Forestry Development Authority Park Rangers is commanded by Officer Joseph Saki. The flag bearer is Officer Sando T. Bapa. The Sergeant Major is Officer T. Momo Risk. The Peaceville City Police is commanded
the main building, walk on the pavement
by Sergeant Nathan T.
of the flag,
Penny.
and they will get information and have
The
two
flag bearer
soldiers go and mount the
is
flag on the
Sergeant
cable, and then
Julian
the other 5
Colley.
of them will salute the flag as
The
the other 2
Sergeant
soldiers
Major
raise the flag steadily
is
at the top
Officer
of the post.
Terrace.
So I was
Opa.
reading about the significance attached to
The
the hosting of the
Environmental
flag to the
Protection
celebration of Armed Forces
Agency
Day. And interestingly, you will note that
is commanded
I just go quickly to my notes right here.
by
You will notice
Inspector
that,
General
the flag is
Harold
not just a symbol,
Baizia
but the flag.
W. Brown.
In fact, that very ceremony of hosting
The
the
flag
flag
bearer
is one of the most symbolic and
is
sacred
Officer
military traditions.
Romel
The army do that
Franklin.
often. So in fact,
The
every
first
day
sergeant
apart from the Armed Forces
is
Day,
Assistant Director Stephen S. Gongen, and the Liberian Scout Association is commanded by Scout Master Abraham Howard. The flag bearer is Alex Mulba, and the first sergeant is Christopher J. Blamo.
Liberian flag is raised, it signifies several things, a whole lot. One of them can be that the republic is sovereign, the country remains supreme, and then also the armed forces also stands ready to defend the constitution. So the hosting of the flag has a lot of reasons. Also, the national authority of the country is recognized and upheld by the hosting of the flag, that particular ceremony. Now, for the military, the flag represents the state that they are representing, or the state that they've been sworn to protect. Okay. That's one of the meetings the flags represent. And then the flag also represents honor and discipline to the soldiers. The respect for national symbols, and not only the flag also, but
any other symbol.
any other national symbol. Okay. In this case, the flag of the Republic of Liberia. Then it also represents discipline in the military discipline. It also do represent unity of command. The army works under command also. Then every soldier in the army at the time of the ceremony, every soldier that is standing for attention during the hosting of the flag or the symbolic renewing, they are symbolically renewing their oath.
To the country?
Yes, of service. Oh. So normally once you doctor into the army, you got to give your oath, a pledge, to protect my country against foreign and domestic threats and all of that.
That's not okay. So that's a traditional thing here at the Armed Forces of Liberia every year, and not every year, but every day, according to you,
so,
that they hoist the flag.
Yeah, almost every day.
They hoist the flag, and there are lots and lots of meanings to hosting the flag here, especially at during the celebrations. That's the Armed Forces Day. It's so symbolic, and it's not just today, but it's every day that they hoist the flag and give respect to the nation in authority that indeed Liberia is a sovereign nation. It's still strong, it's still solid, with the presence of the army and even all of the other branches of government, that Liberia remains peaceful and strong for business and respected among the community of nations.
The flag also does.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm pleased
cohesion and morale
to announce the
the morale,
Honorable Minister of Finance,
associated with the soldiers,
Republic of Liberia.
I mean, the flag is like a rallying point. So once the flag is here, the soldiers will rally. It's like a rallying point, obviously. And then in fact, that's why in military culture, the soldiers defend themselves. They defend their country. They do not fight for politics.
No.
They're void of politics.
No.
And then they fight for their country and their flag. The flag. So and then the flag also builds identity, pride, and a shared mission. like one mission, every soldier, a shared mission. So we're hearing sirens, Vasta. We still left with three crucial officials, of course. The Chief Justice, His Excellency the Vice President, His Excellency the President of the Republic of Liberia, President, of course, the Commander-in-Chief, of course, the President of the Republic of Liberia. So I'm getting sirens probably from behind us any moment from now. We'll be seeing maybe both the VP and the Chief Justice. You never know. Just the other day,
I was to come bit in pieces.
Sure. Yeah. Just the other day, I was in
Lofa. Up to speed with your Lofa's trip. How was it like?
Lofa was awesome. Lofa was interesting. Government officials, I mean, all of the crucial members of the cabinet were in Lofa. Minister of Local Government, we had lawmakers, Deputy Speaker, the Chief Justice himself, and and the official opening of the 10th Judicial Circuit Court there in Vanjama, and then the groundbreaking ceremony for the 10th Judicial Justice Complex there, 10th Judicial Court Complex there in Lofa County. This basically is geared towards improving judicial infrastructure and also the dispensation of justice across Liberia.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm pleased to announce the Honorable Minister of State without portfolio, Republic of Liberia.
Ability should be the one. And I'm seeing the crew from the Vice President's office. Minister of State. Okay, she passed this way. So now we see the arrival
of the Vice President. Seeing the arrival of the Vice President.
I'm yet to see the Dean of the Cabinet. I'm yet to see the Dean of the Cabinet.
That's the Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Yes, I'm yet to see the arrival. Well, here comes the Vice President, or he's already here. The Vice President of the Republic of Liberia, Jeremiah Ban Kun.
So yes, Pastor, the VP will now walk the red carpet, and he will be accompanied, of course, first received by the Chief of Staff of the Army. And Defense Minister stands by also.
Okay.
And they both will accompany him to a seat. He has stepped out of his
Ladies and gentlemen,
salutes the Chief of Staff
to announce the arrival of His Excellency Jeremiah Kun, Vice President, Republic of Liberia.
who has not been formally announced yet, but has arrived and is here.
Please be seated.
So now that the Vice President is here, well, we could still see the arrival of the Chief Justice and eventually His Excellency the President.
Maybe protocol can change.
Obviously, the President dictates the protocol, by the way, but yes, it could be either way.
Maybe go to a ceremony, you have the agenda with you, but the master of ceremony will also have a master. Yeah, so maybe something change in between. But as per the protocol of the itinerary being released, or that was released yesterday or last evening, after the Vice President, they should be the President. So if it changes, yeah.
Definitely. So we await the arrival of His Excellency President Boakai, the Commander-in-Chief of the Army. The units are all lined up on the fields here, attentively awaiting command to kickstart the drills. There's a drill part for me. Yeah. I
just can't wait to witness it again for the third time. Yeah, the third time.
Well, at least I've had an experience of being at countless Armed Forces Day celebrations, and during the era of former President Sirleaf, not as a journalist though, but I had the opportunity to be here at the BTC.
Okay.
And those drills were electrifying at the time, if that's even the best word to use to describe how awesome the soldiers were. And even now it gets mature by the day, it improves by the day. And do not forget, new recruits also of the Army will be put on display here at the BTC. It's just 8:41 Vashta, and I like how timing is crucial for the army.
Oh.
So any moment from now, once the president arrives, the activities will formally kickstart.
So before, I'm just preempting, before 12 o'clock, we should be out of here before 12. If everything goes as planned, we should be out of here before 12 o'clock.
Definitely. Side with you with that. So the road is clear now, all is being put in place.
All eyes
Yeah, on the road to see the arrival of the president.
of the president.
Any moment from now, we look forward to that. Where are you watching from? Kindly leave your Armed Forces Day congratulatory messages in the comments. Wish your family members well. It's obvious your family members are soldiers. Your sisters are soldiers, your uncles, your dads. The other wing of the BTC is hosting all of the family members of the soldiers. And I saw a kid who was dressed up in his uniform just like his dad, with a smile on his face.
It only tells you that he admires his dad and he wants to emulate his dad's footsteps in the nearby future.
And I jokingly asked him, are you a major general or are you a colonel? And his dad was smiling.
That's good, that's good. That's why we should, as a parent, you should always set good examples for your children to follow. Yes.
69th anniversary of the Armed Forces. 69th anniversary of the Armed Forces. A force for good.
A force for good.
They have contributed significantly over the years, not only defending the country against foreign and domestic threats, but contributing significantly in several sectors. Health,
Yeah.
Engineering. Now they are into agriculture, and also serving or providing support at several international peacekeeping missions, as far as the United Nations,
Yeah.
and also providing support to the country's development with their engineering battalion in rural parts of the country, helping. We also have the soldiers in the Sapo National Forest in Reno, trying to instill calm and control in that part of the country.
That Sapo National Park is one of the parks or one of the historical areas for Liberia when it comes to the preservation of our culture, of our biodiversity. And allegedly it has been like exploited or encroached upon by a lot of people allegedly. So we need to maintain that sanity, we need to maintain that respect. In doing it, we have to have the army and other security apparatus to protect that area.
We want to make sure once His Excellency is approaching, we can bring you a clearer view of his arrival for those of you watching on TV. And if you're listening on radio, Charles Johnson is being supported by Martin Fakins. Supposed to have been joined today by Constance Joetta.
Okay.
But it appears she's serving in a different capacity. What do you remember about Armed Forces Day? What can you say about Armed Forces Day? Or what do you like about the soldiers?
And I know people will say, okay, number of days. So we want to know the experience you had in number of days and the one you're having now. How was it like? How is it like now? Tell us the difference, and and also tell someone that has been in the army protecting you, because while you sleep in your beds, in your houses, you have your army out there. Other people, even at the border points, protecting you from extended forces. So just tell someone thank you for being protective of you over the past years. Yeah, maybe mention, because I have my friend, she's my sister in the army. Yeah, so I really love her being in the army. And myself, I would like to join the army, but I don't know, because the training you have to go through, no.
Speaking of families, a case sister of mine is also venturing into joining the army. Currently,
and the recruitment process is ongoing.
She is already applied, probably getting vetted for the process.
Oh, that's nice.
And speaking about the history of the army over the years, after being converted, first used to be called the Liberia Frontier Force.
Yes.
Now transitioned to the Armed Forces of Liberia. So folks, wherever you're watching and following from, we'd like to say thanks for watching us. Stick with us. By the way, my name is Anthony Williams, and I'm being accompanied by my colleague Vashta Talu, and we are both bringing you live coverage of the 69th anniversary of the Armed Forces of Liberia. Dignitaries are already here at the BTC, the Barclays Training Center, where the anniversary of the Army is usually celebrated. We now are waiting the arrival. We've seen the arrival of the Vice President already. We also saw the arrival of House Speaker. The Minister of Defense is here. The Chief of Army Staff, Chief of Staff of the Army, is also here. So now we are with probably the Chief Justice, but the Vice President is already here. The Commander-in-Chief of the Army, His Excellency President Boakai, is on his way, obviously, and is expected to be here any moment from now to formally kickstart activities marking the celebration of the 69th anniversary of the Armed Forces of Liberia. This year's theme, Securing Liberia. Thank you very much. So yes, this year's theme says Securing Liberia together, strengthening interagency cooperation against drug trafficking and emerging security threats. Yes, I have it right here. That's the theme of the 69th Armed Forces Day celebration. So the keynote speaker is the Chief of Defense Staff of the Nigerian Army, or you can call him Chief of Army Staff
Ladies
of the
and
Nigerian
gentlemen, as
Army.
we await
And his name is Lieutenant General Waidi Shebu. He will be delivering
the arrival of His Excellency Mr. President
here at the Barclays.
I'm pleased to inform you that we have several foreign guests from several countries. We have the Nigerian Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Shaibu, and his delegation attending this parade. We also have several senior officers from the National Defense University, United States of America, up to 18 senior officers. We also have a delegation from the Republic of Sierra Leone, headed by Commando Jabati. Ladies and gentlemen, this speaks to the importance of building firm partnership.
Us here the official program sheet, and we want to see if we can run you through
And so
this
the
particular sheet.
delegation from
We
the
apologize
National Defense
from the
University,
PA system is also in this
United
broadcast,
States of America,
but the inspection of troops
headed by
will be done by the Commander-in-Chief himself, His Excellency President Boakai. Right after the invocation, His Excellency President Boakai will inspect the troops. So Vashta, you can now join me quickly. President Boakai obviously will inspect the troops. As you can see, the troops are already lined up in the field, and they've prepared a vehicle on which, a carriage, if I may call it, on which the president will stand. And
last
so we have
last
two
year it brought up a huge debate why the president has
delegations
to, get on a vehicle instead of
from the United
walking
States
in
of
the
America.
It brought up a very huge debate last year, and I think this year again is going to be another
The
huge
National
debate because
Defense
the president will
University,
get on a vehicle,
and of course,
Well, I was aware
Major
about
General
that, but obviously I didn't
Paul
see the
Rogers
essence of making it
is
an
leading
issue of discussion.
another delegation
People introduce new cultures
from
every
the
time,
United
everywhere around the
States,
world. Then looking at
Michigan
the age
National
of the
Guard.
president, you don't expect him to walk the length
Ladies
of
and
this
gentlemen,
field.
the
Even my very self,
United States,
as a young person,
Michigan
I won't feel
National
good. I will
Guard,
walk the length of the field,
like I
go
said
and
earlier,
unless I intend to do
is
exercise
a
intentionally.
key partner
That's something else. But the
to the
tradition
armed
of
forces of
inspecting troops
Liberia.
in carriages or in vehicles is global. It's everywhere around the world.
A lot
And it's not about age.
of our
Even
trainings
very young and active presidents,
in the United
based
States
on, and
of
I know the
America,
argument will be the weight of the army,
by
the troops are not many,
the
and all
Michigan
of that.
National
But why
Guard.
should it be a point of discussion in the first place? Who decides
also make it
what
a duty
pattern or style the army
travel
uses
to
for them
Liberia
to be inspected? That's the thing about
to
how we
conduct
mix everything out of politics.
trainings.
But that
Every
the
year,
president
armed
will
forces
use
of
that vehicle
Liberia
again today the Israeli
benefits
troops come to think
from
of it.
several
And
trainings.
then after the inspection of the
fields of the
troops,
military,
there's going to be a band demonstration by the
from
army.
the
The
Michigan
band units are
National
seated red. They will
Guard.
also have the already attire band
Congratulations.
unit that's all in red. They will do a demonstration. The
To
band,
say a
and then
few
we'll have the
words
introduction
about
of the keynote speaker, which will be done by
our
Honorable
Nigerian
Roche B. Kamara.
partners
Honorable
also.
Roche B. Kamara is the Assistant Minister for
Like I
Post
said,
Affairs in the Army. So he will
from the
introduce the
onset,
keynote speaker. Then the
when
keynote address will be
Lieutenant
delivered by
General
Lieutenant
Shaibu
General
arrived,
Y.B. Shaibu himself,
I mentioned
Chief of
that
Army
he
Staff,
was seconded
Nigeria Army.
I
to
think
the armed forces of Liberia.
pronunciation. It is not. It is that. Is that
He served
hard
for
for?
several years. And during these years, he served with professionalism and due diligence. He served at the time we had as Chief of Staff the late Major General Siraj Alao Abdurrahman. Ladies and gentlemen, I respectfully request the most senior here for us to do justice to the late Abdurrahman by observing a moment of silence in memory of him. Thank you. Please be seated. And then to the Republic of Sierra Leone, our old partners. We also benefit from training in the Republic of Sierra Leone. I remember in 2009, I attended an officer candidate graduation in Sierra Leone, where they trained 9 officers who are performing exceedingly well today.
And then allow the
We say a big thank you
ceremony to flow.
to our Sierra Leonean partners.
People to eat their show.
Yeah, and enjoy the ceremony.
Yeah.
This is the day for the soldiers, so the soldiers will obviously have to enjoy themselves. You can't
Ladies and
ask
gentlemen.
hilariously, someone will be there. My Armed Forces Day on you.
Although we do not have a delegation from the Republic of
Very
Ghana,
hilarious.
but we have officers from the Republic of Ghana that are serving in the AFL today. They are seconded to the AFL. And the Republic of Ghana is one country also that gives us a lot of trainings. If you see the Armed Forces of Liberia band today performing so well, the Republic of Ghana made a great impact in their performance. We have 2 females who we call the drum majorettes. The female you see in front of the band unit directing the band. She took training from the Republic of Ghana. Several males also took training from the Republic of Ghana. As I speak to you, I also did my senior staff course in the Republic of Ghana. So you can see how our partnerships are very, very strong and valuable.
Gives you that orientation, and you never forget to return home. And the respect for country and love for country is always there.
That's why even at universities now they have the cadet training. They have that ROTC. What they train you, give you the fundamentals of the army, the country, why you should protect your country, respect your country. You know, give you the rules and regulations. But it is just maybe for a semester or just 2 semesters and you are out. So
Sure.
yeah. But
Those
in
are temporary.
Yeah, the countries like Egypt, you have to go through the army. You have to go through the military training. I just don't know how many years you have to go through it, but you have to go through it and get the basic.
Ladies and gentlemen, I've been notified that the ambassador of the People's Republic of China is here. I would like to recognize your presence, sir. I would also like to recognize the presence of the ambassador of the Republic of India.
That we will go for the keynote address, and then that will be it. The president also, upon addressing upon inspecting the troops, and then after the keynote address or before the keynote address, will also make a brief statement as the commander-in-chief of the armed forces of Liberia. That is anticipated.
Yeah, especially. What about the defense minister herself? I think she's going to be
the defense minister, also the chief of staff of the army, also.
Yes, something like that to give the progress report.
There will also be an honoring ceremony of veterans.
Yeah.
The chief of staff in the army, all there, so they always honor veterans, and not necessarily veterans also, but soldiers, and based on contributions that have been made over the years. So definitely.
Okay. Oh, all is now being set. All is now set.
Ladies and gentlemen,
receive His Excellency.
Infantry Battalion.
This is LNTV. We're coming to you live from the Battle Training Center here in Central Monrovia, where the 69th Armed Forces
of the staff includes
held.
Captain,
and as you heard from my colleague, we have honoring ceremony of people who have done well in society, also from the army and in the larger society. And
First Lieutenant
speeches from the keynote speaker. That's
Second Lieutenant
the Melvin army or the
Willie,
Chief of Defense Staff or Chief of Army,
and Second
Army of the Nigerian
Joseph
Army. He's going to deliver the keynote address. And last year we witnessed the keynote address being given by Julius Madabio, of Sierra Leone, looking at the contribution of that president to Liberia, and he said, jokingly, how he spent almost
ladies and gentlemen,
6, 7, or 9 years as a peacekeeper in Liberia.
I've been
doing all of
notified
the roles and everything, the map of Liberia, everywhere. So and even the contributions of ECOMON during the peacekeeping time in Liberia.
Also stressing his intimacy and relationship with President Boakai.
Yes.
Also calling President Boakai his brother.
Yeah.
Especially with the ties that President Boakai has with Sierra Leone, schooling in Sierra Leone, and you name it.
So, still here. This is LNTV. We're still here at the Barclay Training Center in Central Monrovia, where the 69th anniversary, and that's the Armed Forces Day celebration, are being held. We earlier on saw the arrival of dignitaries, including the Vice President of the Republic of Liberia, the former President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. We saw the arrival of our own Director General Yuri Kagon. We also saw the arrival of the Minister of Justice. We also saw the arrival of the Minister or the Ministers of Education, as well as Justice, and the Minister of State, and that's Samuel Stikwia, as well as other high-profile dignitaries, including the Ambassador of China to Liberia, Ye Chiwu, and the Ambassador of the U.S. Ambassador to Liberia, Joseph Sandrosi. He's here with an array of army officials from the U.S. Embassy. So my colleague Anthony will now Anthony will not join me again. Seeing signs and symptoms of the arrival of His Excellency. I'm getting signs and symptoms of the arrival of His Excellency.
So yes, that's the convoy of His Excellency the President, obviously. From what it looks like, President Boakai, or probably the Chief Justice also, or a long convoy of officials of government approaching here. But some of these vehicles still belong to guests. International guests are still coming.
So
yes, they're obviously so.
Yeah. I told you protocol can change. We
Definitely.
have what we have in our hands, but the master of ceremony has the original protocol.
Yeah.
So that's it right here. That's it right here. That looks foreign, but until we can see.
So.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm pleased to announce the Vice Prime Minister and Minister of Defense of the Republic of Ivory Coast.
So representatives from the Monrovia Union country, right next door to Liberia, are here also to attend the 69th anniversary of the Armed Forces of Liberia. Actually, you can join me quickly. We just saw the arrival of dignitaries and delegates from the Ivory Coast. Of course, yes.
I think it just speaks to the connection and the solidarity that's existed among the Community of Nations, especially the Monrovia Union, because you've seen a strong and high-profile person from the Ivorian army here too. So
I think it's also speak to regional security connection, you know, amongst Monrovia Union countries, Liberia, Ivory Coast, Guinea, and Sierra Leone. I think Ivory Coast became the latest members to join the MRU. And so yes, with the presence of their officials here, it also tells you the level of growth within the MRU and you know, security cooperation amongst those countries.
And because of that, because of the coordination and cooperation among the MRU countries, that's why I think that's the reason why we are seeing the CLSG.
So definitely,
yes,
in terms of energy and power.
Energy and power supplied among the countries like Liberia, Guinea, and Ivory Coast to Sierra Leone. Yes. So it looks like I told you that I'm having signs and symptoms, but
You keep saying that.
yeah, but it is not because I told you we have a protocol. We have the formal protocol, but the masters of ceremony has, or the master of ceremony has the original protocol. So anything can change at any time.
Ladies and gentlemen, I will like to recognize the presence of the Doyen and all members of the diplomatic corps.
Give him a salute and walk him to his seat before the actual event starts. So they're already staged and are waiting the president's arrival.
Yeah, everything is now staged. Everything is now ready. I don't think we are seeing, or we will see the arrival of any other guest, with the exception of
the president. Yes, yeah. That's what we are anticipating currently. So where are you watching the Armed Forces Day celebration from? I guess you might be home watching on your television set. If you're watching us, we are in the BTC. My colleague Vasha Talu and I and the rest of the team, we're here. Earlier this morning we brought you live the hosting of the flag. I live streamed that video for like an hour, and then we ended it and rejoined you here on our ME broadcast cameras purposely for the event itself. So just so you know, President Boakai is yet to arrive, and once President Boakai arrives, the actual event starts.
Yeah, that's it. The president, as soon as the president arrives, the program will begin. So it is the 69th, as my colleague said, 69th Armed Forces Day celebration, and we've been proud, I can say very much proud to be here to give our little description and analysis about what is happening here today. Is a privilege because others can do it better than us, but we've been selected. So I always say it is a privilege.
Sure.
And we have other people here.
I appreciate those who are commending us, by the way.
Yeah. We have other people here from the radio also doing their live coverage on the radio. So if you just don't have television, you can also sit by your radio and get something out of everything that is happening here.
You can watch online if you got data enough.
Yeah, data. Yeah, especially for the people that are in the diaspora, you can also watch LNTV.
For those of you who have been around back in the day, what do you remember about Armed Forces Day? How was it celebrated during your day? I still remember when we were kids in school, we also did parades on Armed Forces Day, on Flag Day, and all of that. We'll have soldiers come to our school, we'll parade the streets and have several drills.
Do you remember the Bada War? Don't take out my shoe.
Yeah. Hip hop. Left, right.
Don't take out my shoe. Bada War. Yes.
Ladies and
Live my ride.
A century.
Yeah.
The Lone Star represents the banner under which Liberians lived, fought, and died. The flag is more than a symbol. The flag is the embodiment of our government, people, ideals, and values. To uphold the flag, members of the Armed Forces of Liberia cling to the Army core values.
Domestic threats.
As we
it's a
celebrate,
and it's a plus to put your chest on the line for your country,
69th
protect your people, and represent the cause. So wherever you're watching from, this is the unique occasion marking the 69th anniversary of the Armed Forces of Liberia. We are with the arrival of President Boakai, who is expected to be any moment from now. So the Defense Minister, the Chief of Staff, are all waiting to see the President's arrival, and they will accompany him to his seat to begin the festivities. Let the celebrations begin, I guess. When the soldiers will conduct parades, various drills will be conducted, and the armory will be on display. And of course, right here in Central Monrovia at the Barclay Training Center.
Warrior class.
Yes, actually, we're still here. Even though we have
to maneuver towards the sound of guns
or the artillery. So
to able shoulder.
We are not okay. So
heritage created
is now
by those
everything is set
who have gone before
Defense
us.
Minister and the Chief of Staff, Brigadier General Division 4 Lair is here. And lately the Army has been doing some kind of action, or has been taking into place some kind of action, especially on the 72nd Barracks.
Excuse me. That one had to choke me because I did cover it. I was there for like 3 to 4 consecutive times. And yes, the Army actually is recruiting. In fact, some of the new recruits are here. They might be placed on display. And so they are challenged with infrastructure, just like the judiciary is challenged with infrastructure, the building structures across the country. But the Army itself already have lands that are being occupied by squatters. So 72nd Barracks, formerly known as Camramorary, has they had to evacuate those who have been residing in the barracks for decades because the Army is challenged infrastructure wise. So yeah, that has brought lots of debates from pundits, especially as it relates to compensation, the conversations surrounding compensation. There are folks who are claiming they've invested heavily and all of that, but it's obviously known that that particular land.
Ladies and gentlemen, as we await
the shuffling barracks, and President Boakai was graced by Tio from Cool FM about
Mr.
the issue
President,
of considering. You know the famous
permit me
saying now
to
that God is not
acquaint you
making new lands anymore.
It is
So the
trending.
army
with
should own the land.
activities
People are now trying to paraphrase it
of the
with
second
different
phase
words
of
that
this
God
parade.
is not creating new land. It is trending. Since still conducted that.
Immediately, His
But God is obviously not creating
Excellency,
new parcels of land anymore.
Mr. President arrives.
But I think the major concern here that was being raised is about the issue
The
of
commander
compensation,
of troops
especially for those who are claiming they've made investments.
for
in all of
today's
that.
parade
But come to think of it, this is government property, so
will bring
So if government
the callers
will
forward
compensate you, it will be like, okay,
For honor
this will be because of human
to the nation.
that's where lawmakers come from. They've held, several meetings and discussions in recent times.
Following
I
that,
think just a day or two ago, lawmakers from that district. And
the
then,
armed forces
in fact,
of
the entire,
Liberia band
legislature,
will
the
render
has gotten to the legislature.
a selection.
On the table is being discussed. Could be a package or something, just
After
to make sure
which,
those who have lived there for years can be compensated. Probably someone may
invocation
you remember the bread Mr. Red Eye, the guy who was like, I take a government
be
property for
conducted.
years, government gave me small thing. Yes. So yeah, but the army have already
Following
taken
the
over the entire structure.
Wow.
They've barricaded the entire
invocation,
some of the buildings have been de-roofed.
the commander
Some
of
the structures
troops
will be on repair. So
will
a lot of work
request
will be done.
permission
In fact, there is a command,
from
what looks like a command center. I don't know, but they
the
have
commander-in-chief
a low camp in the barrack already where soldiers now.
to post
So
the callers.
before the war, you have officers, you have
Sure.
personnel living there.
Once
Definitely, and their families.
Okay.
And
the
then
callers
after the war,
I posted,
a lot of them just settled there. Also, some of them who were deactivated they also were in the barracks.
the commander of
They
troops
lived there for generations. Had
will
kids,
then
had children, had
request
families. And all that.
permission from the commander-in-chief for the inspection of troops. Following the inspection of troops, other activities will take place. We will then listen to speeches, awards, and we will witness the receipt of a very important award, the Distinguished Service Award. We also see the Chief of Staff gave the Chief of Staff Commendation Award. Major General Paul Rogers from the Michigan National Guard
to kickstart
will
the
join the
activities
Chief of
formally.
Staff.
I'm also seeing executive horn. I think
present
he wants to blow the horn. Is that
his
so?
own
Yeah,
award
PA will be blowing that horn
called
again today.
Award of
Executive horn from Maryland
Excellence.
County. Proud Gribble man. We'll be blowing the horn. Preserved only for the president.
Own it.
He has already taken his position and getting ready to start blowing the horn.
That's not.
Once the president arrives, that's part of traditional protocol. Yeah, obviously. I think it's very unique to Liberia. I don't know if other
And
countries,
we'll also
if it's
pray that
anywhere.
one day you will have the opportunity to travel with the president, maybe
To
some of the
showcase this
African
culture,
countries
yeah.
and showcase
It will be awesome at the UN General Assembly.
Very, very awesome. Very, very awesome.
But President Bwaka is already here, folks. His convoy has already arrived into the BTC and is fast approaching the stand. So his vehicle alone will be driven towards us here, and he will be received by the Chief of Staff of the Army and the Minister of Defense, accompanied with the bikes.
Either when we watch foreign movies, when we see the motorbikes, especially the motorbikes accompanying the heads of state. Yeah, we'll say, okay, yeah, that's nice. At least we have it now in our country.
Yeah, I think
And people will say, okay, it's been later, but I think everything is not late.
there are up to 6 of them in the convoy, I guess.
Yes, so
The president is already here. There you have it. His vehicle is now, inching closer to us. He has his executive protection service officers all dressed in their black suits, accompanying the vehicle. Drifting slowly towards the podium, Bashta. President Bwaka, the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of Liberia, is here in commemoration of the 69th anniversary of the Armed Forces of Liberia. The President's vehicle drifts through, and the Executive Protection Service officers have left the entire vehicle already, Vashta, and they've turned protection and security over to the Armed Forces of Liberia.
It's still there. It's still here.
Okay, they're back.
Sure.
No, the reason is simple. You can't walk through the units.
Okay.
So they had to go across, allowing only the President. Yeah, they understand. They understand the military, you know.
I think you have to go there and take some pictures.
Well, they obviously not allow us. So folks, you are seeing the arrival of the president right behind us. President Boakai is making his way now to his seat. He's being accompanied by the Minister of Defense and the Chief of Staff of the Armed Forces of Liberia. Right there. Any moment from now, he will disembark his vehicle, and he will walk the red carpet where he will go at the stand.
Ladies and gentlemen, I am pleased now to announce the arrival of His Excellency Joseph Newman Boakai Sr., President of the Republic of Liberia and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of Liberia. The commander of troops will now march the colors forward to present to His Excellency Mr. President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of Liberia for honor to the nation. Ladies and gentlemen, the commander of troops is now marching the colors to present to His Excellency Mr. President and Commander-in-Chief, Armed Forces of Liberia, for honor to the nation. The commander now moves to the president to inform him that the colors are present. Ladies and gentlemen, at the playing of the national anthem, all military and paramilitary personnel wearing uniform must salute, while civilians will place their right hand over the left side of their chest. Those civilians wearing hats, I please requested to remove your hat and place your right hand over the left side of your chest. The national anthem. Your Excellency, Mr. President, please be seated. You coming? Your Excellency, Mr. President, I respectfully request that you please remain standing. I respectfully request that you please remain standing for the invocation, which will be conducted by the Acting Chaplain General of the Armed Forces of Liberia, Staff Sergeant Bishop Jackson Payne, and Staff Sergeant Imam Isa Kamaran.
Let us pray. More gracious and everlasting God, the creator of all, we come before you today to lift up the men and women serving in our armed forces. We ask that you surround them with your favored love and shield. Strengthen them in the trials. Give them courage to fix the path. Father, we say grant them thy presence in your grace. We pray, O God, that you, God, will be with us as we go through this time. Father, be the God over your people who I call by your name. Lord God, we thank you for those who travel from countries to be with us to celebrate on this day. We say, Lord, bless and keep us. Amen.
In the name of the Almighty God, the most gracious, the most merciful, oh Allah, we thank you for your divine blessings upon the armed forces of Liberia. Oh Allah, we pray for better coordination, collaboration among security agencies, that they may serve as a platform for fostering unity, peace, and tranquility in Liberia, Africa, and the world. In the name of the Almighty God, we pray.
Your Excellency, Mr. President, please be seated. The commander of troops will now post the colors. Ladies and gentlemen, the color party is now marching to post the colors. The colors are now posted. The commander of troops will now request permission from the commander-in-chief for the inspection of troops. The commander of troops is now marching to request the Commander-in-Chief for the inspection of troops. The Commander-in-Chief will be accompanied by the Chief of Staff, Armed Forces of Liberia. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated as the Commander-in-Chief goes to inspect the troops. Ladies and gentlemen, executing this parade are the Armed Forces of Liberia, the Liberian National Police, the Liberian Immigration Service, the Liberian Revenue Authority, Customs Department, the Liberian National Fire Service, the Liberian Drugs Enforcement Agency, the Monrovia City Police, the Bureau of Corrections, the Liberia Seaport Police, the Forestry Development Authority Park Rangers, the Pinsville City Police, the Environmental Protection Agency, and the Liberia Scout Association. The music for today's Armed Forces Day Parade is being provided by the Armed Forces of Liberia under the command of Second Lieutenant Philip K. Carpet and directed by Sergeant Major Matthew Killen. The drum majorettes are Private Esther K. Boyo and Private Familia T. Bokwa. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand as His Excellency Mr. President and Commander-in-Chief returns from the inspection of troops. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated.